As Freemasons, we love our secret words. They're used to protect our secrets, arts, and hidden mysteries so that only true and proper Masons are recognized. But there is a secret word in Freemasonry that most Masons don't learn, and they spend most of their Masonic life never using it. This secret word should be taught on our initiation, but it isn't, and many new Masons don't even know. They instead use a substitute word that gets us into trouble. The substitute word they use puts them under pressure and causes them to stress, leading to the inevitable resentment of the craft, and it's also the leading cause of past master syndrome. I'm Right Worshipful Brother Darren Allatt, and in this edition of Daily Masonic Progress, I'm going to share with you what this secret word is, why it's important that we use this word freely and in full, and how we can avoid the mistake of using the substitute word that causes all of the issues. Now, I actually didn't learn this word until recently, and if I had learned it earlier in my Masonic life, my own personal life would have been very different. I became a Mason at 19, and over the last 18 years, I've enjoyed what some would say is a successful Masonic career. I mean, not that you can say that a Masonic career is successful, but I went through every progressive office in my lodge and I was identified as an emerging Masonic leader by my Grand Lodge. I was installed into the chair, and then a year or two after, I served as district inspector, all by my mid-20s. I'm 37 now and I serve on the board of my Grand Lodge. And I hold the Right Worshipful rank of past Senior Grand Warden. And I've also been through the chair of my Scottish Rite chapter. I need not remind you that Daily Masonic Progress is my own opinions and not those of any lodge, Grand Lodge, or Masonic body of any kind. And now you could say that as I have enjoyed this Masonic success, and to be fair, the craft has taught me a lot, and it's made up for my lax attention during high school. So there are many skills that I had learned from Freemasonry, and I was able to then take into my working career because of my involvement in the Masonic system. Now, I want to clarify something here. I don't want you to think this is Freemasonry giving me a job and promoting me and finding me work and making sure that I was looked after. It's actually far from it. In fact, from a resume point of view, I've had interviews where people have rejected me as a candidate because I had Freemasonry on my CV. But I've also had people look very positively at my Masonic experience, and that's used me to help break some artificial glass ceilings that we often come up in our careers. But when I say that Freemasonry's helped me in work, that means that I've been able to take the lessons and the skills that I've learned through participating in Freemasonry and apply them in my own day-to-day life and in my job. And that's things like working in a team, being able to lead a team and manage multiple different people of all kinds of personalities, all kinds of different skill level. It's also meant that I've learned how to coach and teach other people, and I've been able to really refine my communication skills. And these are all things that I'm still working on today. So the fact that it has allowed me to basically get a second education, the same way that you might go to a public speaking club or you might go and do a formal MBA course, well, it's been an informal learning experience that's helped me in my work. But the other thing is, to be 37 and to have Right Worshipful rank, having been through the chair of my lodge, having served as district inspector, this is not the norm. And I don't want to say I'm special because I am by no means special, but it's important to note that my situation and experience are an exception to the rule, an edge case, or perhaps an aligning of the stars that's worked out well for me. That being said, I still wish I had learned this secret word earlier and not used the substitute word so often. And that secret word and substitute word are no and yes. I say the secret word is no, as in the word no itself, but we substitute this word with yes, and we do it in many situations that we should actually be saying no to. And instead they say yes because they don't know any better, they want to contribute, and they want to fulfill the promise they made during their membership interviews. They don't want to let the others down, and they don't have the experience to stand up for themselves. So they substitute the word no with the word yes. And then when they do say yes, it often leads to the last minute pullout. They have family or work commitments. You know, the two things that we told them that come before Freemasonry, these cards end up getting played frivolously so they can get out of the pickle that they put themselves in because they didn't know they could say no to begin with. But if they don't pull out, it gets worse. Often they go through with the thing they said yes to and do it under stress and at detriment to themselves. And it may not be an immediate detriment, but like deposits and withdrawals in a bank, they add up over time and with interest. I mean, it is also not their fault. Our ceremonies are full of yes-orientated questions or questions that require positive affirmation. However, many new Masons often overlook the many times our ceremonies remind them and instruct them that a yes should be of their own free will and accord. And it's one of the earliest lessons we're actually reminded of in the initiation. I mean, the thing is, are you really exhibiting your own free will and accord if you don't feel like you can actually say no? And this is where that interest, like interest on money, starts to compound. And if it's compound interest on debt, we know it's bad. If it's on deposits and cash savings, it's good. And like all deposits and withdrawals at the bank, they don't seem like much at the time, but over a longer period, they actually matter. So what are the things that we actually substitute yes for when we really should be saying no? Well, how many times have we come into a situation at Lodge where we don't have any work for the month, so we turn to an apprentice or the fellow craft and we ask them if they're ready. And they say yes, because they don't want the Lodge to not have any work. After all, if they're not ready, who is then seen as the cause of the void? It's not the senior warden who's in charge of the work. It's not the master who the buck ultimately stops with. It's not the Lodge who didn't properly plan or have built a culture of proper education and don't have a plan B. It's this poor apprentice and fellow craft. So they're guilted into saying yes. And this is why it's not their fault. It is the fault of the senior warden for not organising the work. It is the fault of the master because he rules the Lodge. And it is the fault of the Lodge for not having a real backup plan and just defaulting to pushing an apprentice or fellow craft through to the next degree. And even if that apprentice or fellow craft has memorised the exam, they still need time to properly learn and develop through understanding their current degree before they go through the next one. We need to remember that proficiency in the former degree is not that they have memorised the card, it's whether they're actually proficient in the lessons of the degree itself. Then the other thing we have Masons say yes to when they really should be saying no is taking office or skipping offices to progress towards the chair, or saying yes to taking a warden's chair with no intention of then becoming the master and the IPM. But the biggest one that many new Masons say yes to is joining every other Masonic order. They join one and then that opens up a whole lot more. They get asked to join those and they say yes to them. These enthusiastic brethren end up saying yes to so many other orders because they feel they can't say no. And what ends up happening is most of these Masons end up doing a lifetime of Masonry within a few short years. They burn out and leave the craft. And they do this to the detriment of themselves and their connections. And that results in resentment of the craft and not ever wanting to come back in the future. And I can hear the rebuttal now from many of the other past masters. Oh, but our ceremonies have the lessons to warn them not to say yes to these things. We tell them about temperance, the 24-inch gauge, the compasses, the length of their cable toe, and the many other references to actually saying no that are in our ceremonies. And yeah, these lessons are in our ceremonies, but guess what? Because you, the past masters, just pushed them through the degrees once they'd memorized the card, they can repeat these words from memory, but they've never learned the lessons because you didn't give them the time, nor did you invest your time and your effort to teach them what the words on the page meant and the lessons behind them. You didn't encourage them to go and apply those lessons in their own life. You just pushed them through. So brethren, the secret word is no. Give it in full and give it at length. You're not obliged to say yes, rather the opposite. You must only say yes if you do so of your own free will and accord, not because of any situation creating a scenario where you don't feel like you have the power to say no. If you ever feel like you're in that situation, say no. If those brethren don't accept it, you can tell me and I will contact them. I will contact their Grand Lodge and I will absolutely have your back. But I do warn you with this. Freemasonry is an organization based upon integrity. And we're also a voluntary organization. And once you say yes, you are obligated to complete your responsibilities because that's what integrity means. But taking on responsibility is optional. You don't have to say yes when someone asks you if you want to become responsible for something. But what is not optional is fulfilling that responsibility you take on. You are a man of excellent character now, so you need to fulfill what you agree to.